The world flipped upside down as the roar of the water swallowed everything. A wave of water hit them, knocking them off their feet before they could even grasp what was happening. The water pounded against their bodies, and as they reflexively tried to grasp their breath, ending up swallowing the muddy water instead. To Ace, the incident was a blur. The rush of water disoriented everything, and his injured leg throbbed due to the pressure. Nia felt herself getting dragged along by the same pressure as she tried to instinctively grasp something, but to no avail. Haven had somehow managed to get hold of a tree trunk and was desperately clinging onto it. But the speed of the water was too much. She got caught in the current again, hitting her back on a rock nearby. Iram was flapping around in the water, trying to stay afloat, but getting sucked back inside. This was it, he thought. He was going to die drowning. He couldn't tell the direction he was facing. Everything was rushing at him. There was no air, no room to breathe. Panic set in all of them. However, after a while, the flow of the current began to fade. What was before an unstoppable rush was now more sluggish. Mia finally felt herself catching her breath, her feet finding solid ground. The water was still waist deep, but it didn't come at her anymore. Her eyes immediately scanned for the others. Ace groaned as he reached a patch of solid ground and collapsed onto it. His ankle was swelling again, but the relief of being out of the flood washed over him. Eden steadied himself beside a rock. Everything hurt, but at least it was safe now. He was never letting something like this happen ever again. Meanwhile, Helen struggled to get her bearings, grimacing as she rubbed her back, which had felt the full force after the impact with the rock. She was glad it hadn't been her head. The four of them sat on the ground, heavily breathing, still trying to process what had just happened. Their chests were heaving, muscles aching and trembling from exhaustion. Drenched from head to toe, mud and dirt clung to their clothes and had gotten tangled in their hair. The area was eerie silent, which merely highlighted the feeling of unease they had. Their rapt breaths being the only source of noise. The incident had been so sudden, yet so frightening. Haven said, "That was," and flopped back onto the ground. AC Luther said to no one in particular, "I never want to experience that ever again." Eden was still trying to gather his breath, coughing up some water that had gotten into his nose. Mia, who had just been about to retort, suddenly noticed something let out a soft glow near the trees on the opposite side of the now flooded area. She got up, forgetting about the ordeal as she searched for what she believed she saw. She was right. There, fluttering amidst the darkened trees, was the white butterfly, glowing the same soft light. Before she could point it out, the butterfly flutters over to that side, flying innocently around them as if nothing had happened. The four of them understood now. This insect was definitely not normal. But that didn't stop them from being annoyed at it. In fact, it just made them even more irritated. Eden pointed at it and as if speaking to a human said, "Oh, so now you come. You drag us here, then leave us, and now after escaping an entire flood, come back as if nothing happened." Ace grumbled, "Of all the things you had to survive, huh?" Heaven, instead of talking to it, attempted to grab at the butterfly. The butterfly darted away from her hands before finally finding an exit and dashed towards it, about to leave. But Mia immediately blocked its path, her expression completely different from her usual demeanor. The butterfly fluttered around as if understanding it was surrounded, before suddenly taking to the sky and flying high among the treetops. The four of them immediately ran after it. Well, Ace was mostly limping, but adrenaline could do a lot. They were not letting it go this time. The exhaustion of the incident had completely slipped their minds, and that was saying something. The four of them kept on running after the butterfly, which was now flying over several branches. At one point, it suddenly stopped and fluttered at the top of a tall tree. As Mia, Haven, and Eden stopped and tried catching their breaths. This was all too much for one day. Haven, between gasps, said, "Should we even be following this guy after what he made us go through?" Mia said, "We can't be even sure the butterfly caused it. Eden cut in after pushing me off a slope and then punching me. I don't doubt it's this guy's doing." Now, normally, such a confession would be weird, but today had been the weirdest day they had ever experienced. The four of them looked back up at the butterfly, which suddenly flew down closer to them but further away. The chase started once again. They didn't even notice it when the trees thinned and the air felt lighter and the sky became clearer. As Slaughter stopped to catch his breath when he noticed. He glanced around before realizing it. "Guys, wait!" The other three looked back at him, halting at their steps. It was then did they two realize that right now they were at the entrance of the forest. Heaven looked around in a daze. "No way, we're actually out?" Mia looked around for the butterfly. It had flown away again. Great, not again? Well, at least they were safe now. Somehow, she felt that the butterfly had helped them out. Now that they were out of the forest, they could make out the lights of the houses from the small cliff they were at. It was completely dark now, but seeing those lights relaxed all of them. Eden said, then put his hands on his knees as he caught his breath. "I have never been gladder to see the town." S replied, "You said it." The four of them made it down until they were right next to the town. They looked at one another before S spoke. "So, before we go back, what should we tell our families?" Haven replied, "Let's see. Hey everyone, so this might be hard to digest, but the reason I'm completely drenched in water is because I decided to follow this glowing white butterfly into the forest just before night time and then came across a larger than normal beaver dam with these three other people my age I had never met before. It broke, we got caught in a flood, and then the butterfly came back and let us out." She stops and Eden says, Yeah, even I wouldn't be able to believe that if I hadn't been there. Ace asked, so not telling others? No, Eden answered a bit roughly than he intended. The four of them looked at one another once again before realizing that they had to get going. Ace turned and said, well, I'll be going then. See you guys later, I guess. That is if they do meet. Mia waved by before racing in the direction of her house. Eden waved back and started walking too, in the same direction Haven realized was the place she was going. She grumbled before joining him. Elsa just knocked on the door of his house when it flung open, and his mother, still in her office wear, stood in front of him. Her eyes widened as she found her son drenched from head to toe with what appeared to be a limp. She immediately grabs him without a word and gets him inside. Els grimaced, waiting for her to demand an explanation. Instead, she checked over to make sure he wasn't hurt anywhere else. Then she made him sit on a chair and bent down in front of him and lifted his leg and checked on his ankle. She then looked up and with an expression of both anger and worry demanded, how did this happen? Where were you? And why didn't you even send me a message? S blurted out what he thought was a reasonable excuse. I wanted to take a walk and kind of ended up walking into the forest and tripped and fell into a stream there. I twisted my ankle then and my phone fell to the ground when I tripped and it cracked. His mother looked at him for an entire second before sighing and going back to checking on him. I have a lot of questions, but I'll leave them for later. First, let's get that ankle checked and treat those bruises. She got up and went over to get the first aid box. Els let himself relax onto the chair, taking off his scarf, which was dripping with water. At least now he didn't have to worry about what happened. But he was never stepping into that forest ever again, nor would he ever follow any glowing creatures. Mia slowly opened the front door to her house and tiptoed inside, wondering if her grandparents were still awake. Of course, they were. Her grandmother was on the phone while her grandfather was racing around. The moment they saw her, her grandmother said, wait, I'm so sorry, she came back. Some sounds from the other side. Yes, please. I'm sorry for taking your time. Once she was done, she immediately turned to glare at Mia. But when she clearly saw that she was drenched, her expression immediately changed from anger to worry. Mia's grandfather, realizing this was going to be one of those conversations, excused himself, saying he'll be getting a towel for Mia. Once he left, Mia's grandmother dragged her to a nearby chair and they checked on her, minus a few bruises and the ruined clothes. She was relatively fine. Her grandmother sighed gladly. Then her expression changed, and in a furious tone demanded from Mia, young lady, where have you been? You suddenly rushed out of the house and they didn't come back? We were so worried. Just now I have been on call with the police. Mia swallowed, her throat dry, twisting the fabric of her damp clothes between her fingers. Her foot tapped lightly against the floor. Too fast, too restless. The silence stretched. She really should have thought of Eli while coming home. Gathering it up, she said, I got lost in the forest and fell into the stream. Her grandmother got more suspicious. Why were you even in the forest in the first place this late? Mia gripped her hands together. She looked at her grandmother. Keep your eye contact, her mind told her. I got lost while searching for my keychain. It was technically true. Her grandmother gave her a hard look before sighing. Mia's grandfather entered just then, giving her a towel and telling her to take a shower. Mia was really glad for the distraction. She immediately got up and went to the bathroom, closing the door behind her. She sighed. At least so now everything was fine. Eden had just entered the house when he got clumped by his mother. She embraced him with enough force to suffocate him. Not what Eden wanted after the whole incident he went through. Once his mother was done, she immediately let go and checked on Eden. You're soaking wet. What happened? Did you fall into a well? Did someone bully you? Why aren't you saying anything? Eden's father, who saw the situation, came up, placed a hand on his wife's shoulder, and told her to get Eden some clean clothes. Eden's mother, getting what he meant, immediately left the room. Eden and his father looked at one another for a moment before the father spoke sternly. Do you know how much worry you put your mother in? She was in hysterics, saying you suddenly left and didn't come back. Where on earth were you to get that drenched anyway? Eden looked over him and muttered, I went to the forest and kind of got lost, fell into a stream. His father took a deep breath before placing a hand on his head. Why on earth did you even enter a forest? Eden thought. I don't know that. Ask the stupid butterfly. Eden's father glared at him. This conversation isn't over, but right now your mother will probably be back with your clothes, change, and go to your room. Eden whispered a yes and walked up the stairs. Although he was waiting for a stern lecture later, he was glad to be out of that forest. Once he and Eden had separated, Heaven had rushed to Livy's place, hoping by hope that she wasn't too late to the party. She didn't even care that she was soaking wet. She went in from the backyard and was glad to see the party going on. The entire backyard was decorated. Livy really had gone completely into it. She saw the band at the side of the garage and she quickly climbed over the ledge and rushed to them, hiding along the way to avoid too much attention. She casually went up to them, acting as if she wasn't completely drenched from head to toe. Liam, who saw her, immediately tensed up and went up to her. Heaven, where were you? We were waiting, and why are you completely soaked? He made her come in and made her sit on a wooden bench. Haver sighed, finally able to rest. Long story, don't want to talk about it now. She dug into one of her jacket pockets and brought out a damn sheet music. The notes surprisingly intact. Here's the sheet music. Liam looked at her before taking and going through it. Are you sure you're okay? Do you want me to get your aunt, maybe Livy or Nora? She waved him off. No, it's fine. I just need a bit of rest. You guys get on with the work. Saying that, she got up and grabbed Leon's jacket and put it over her, despite the background yelp of protest from the specific boy. She just sat back on the bench and watched the others get ready. She sighed. Today had been way too exciting for her liking. She hoped she would never have to experience that again.